I don't know about you, but I am starting to feel that itch. The slightest little cool breeze on the back of my neck, and I immediately start thinking about chasing these majestic white-tailed deer and making memories in the woods this season with friends. I am excited, but one of the most important things I believe we have to do is dial in our system. Check out our gear, make sure we have it ready to come efficient. Welcome to Gear Season 2024. What's up, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Revive Outdoors. Today we're going to be talking about everything to do with mock scrapes and how they can be a crucial tool when it comes to harvesting your target buck this season. Some things that people don't think about that you can use mock scrapes for are for inventorying and then also planning for the rut. So here we are in the summer. Why I'm out here making mock scrapes. What is it going to do to benefit me? If you have them in the right spot for the right time of season, they're going to be hit, they're going to be used, and they're going to be an effective tool for you. So I'm going to dive into all those details in this episode. My favorite products and what I have used for several years since the day that they came onto the market is Native Scents. So here in my hand, I have the Native Scents. This is the War Party Buck Tarsal. This right here is actually their synthetic buck tarsal scent, and this is going to be available for those of you who hunt in a state where real deer urine is not allowed. So they have that War Party buck tarsal now available to you. And then for the real deer urine, for states like Alabama who allow it, you have a few different kinds to choose from. So you have the Deception, the Seduction, and the War Party. The Deception is going to be doe urine, just regular doe urine, straight out of does, any time of the year. It's going to be doe urine. The Seduction is going to be estrous, so it's going to be that doe estrous when they pee, when they're in heat, and they collect that estrous. This is straight from a farm here in Alabama. It's not shipped in from somewhere in another state. It's here in Alabama, so it's a local farm. Everything is up to CWD standards and everything is above board, and they do a really good job bottling these and getting them to you. It's just a kind of a one-man show and his family. Zach is a great guy. I've learned a ton from him on scrapes, on deer scents, on just deer behavior, habitat, lots of things. He's a great resource for us here at Revive Outdoors, but he also makes a killer product that I have used for years. I've had encounters with deer at 5 feet with it. I've had deer stay around my area for an extended period of time when I have the Seduction on me, or like on a scent wick around me, that they can't figure out where that hot doe is, but they want to hang around. I've had bucks go by, sniff around, come back by a few hours later, come back by 10 minutes later, and it's been a really helpful tool. So make sure that you're using this in season and out of season, not just on mock scrapes, but you can use them with scent wicks as well. And then the last one that you have here is War Party. War Party is going to be the buck urine. So it's going to give you the opportunity to get that competition going on between bucks. You know, bucks are very territorial. You know, in bachelor season, when they're all in velvet and they're all hanging out together, they're all friends, but when the rut hits, they get very territorial, very aggressive. So that's where you can add a little competition into the mix, and they can say, hey, whoa, what's up? I got another dude in my area trying to come after my girl. No way, not today. And so you can get them a little bit more aggressive. And then also I'll talk about effective choosing of where to put the mock scrape, and then what type of tree to put the mock scrape on. But be sure to go to nativescentsllc.com, buy their products. They have a discount code, all caps Revive. You put that in, make sure that you use that so they know that you came to them from us. And then for times like the summer, he obviously isn't going to be bottling up Seduction right now. And so what I always recommend to people is when he is bottling up Seduction and he's selling it in that doe and heat season, make sure that you buy extras and keep them refrigerated before the summer rolls back around. So I'll freshen up scrapes in the spring, I'll freshen them up in the summer, the fall, and then in rut. So I'm always freshening them up 4 times a year with these products. And what I like to do is I like to use all the products in one scrape, because it's no different than multiple deer coming and hitting that scrape at different times of the year, but it just continues to pique their interest, hopefully develops a habit, and then you're able to use that scrape to your advantage. I'll talk about specifically why I chose this one today behind me. and what the benefits are of using one in this situation. If you have any questions, please let me know. Put them in the comments. If you have any advice for those that are watching, please put them in the comments. People are coming to learn, and you can teach them just as much as I can. If you have experience, please share that with them. They want to know. I don't have all the answers. I don't know the exact right way to do everything. Deer are wild animals, but I can just tell you my best practices and hopefully help you. One of the big mentors that I've had in this space when it comes to hunting mock scrapes, using mock scrapes, is Troy Pottinger. So if you go on the Southern Outdoorsman podcast and you look up Troy Pottinger, has a lot of great content. I've taken what Troy has taught me and what Troy has done, and I have made kind of my own way of doing things, but it's very similar, making a mock scrape. Overall, pretty similar thing as you listen from different guys, but Troy is probably the best, and just shout out to him for all the help that he's done in making sure that our ministry hunts are successful through mock scrapes. But then you also have to use a quality product, and that's where Native Sense comes into play, being real deer urine, and then for those guys that can't use it, you have the synthetic as well. So now what we'll do is I'll turn around to this scrape here. This is an existing scrape, and tell you why I chose it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Revive Outdoors. If you're not familiar with us, we're a nonprofit based here in Alabama, and our mission is to make a positive and eternal impact through conservation. The way that we do that is we take brand new adult hunters on one-on-one mentored hunts. To date, since late 2020, when we started Revive Outdoors, we've taken 303 brand new adult hunters on one-on-one mentored hunts. Out of those hunts, we've seen 37 people come to know the Lord through salvation in Jesus Christ. And then we've also seen 97 people be referred to mental health services to take their next step towards getting help in the mental spectrum, not just the spiritual one. And we've also raised about $6,000 this past year to go to families in needs in our local community. So we're making a huge impact, and we're thankful for people like you watching today's episode and helping with that. For the companies that you see on these episodes, they play some part financially and gear in different ways to provide for us as a nonprofit as well. So be sure to use our codes. They track those to see that you're going and buying their products from our videos, so we're super grateful for them. And then our three legacy sponsors are Spartan Forge, Buzzard Roost Saddles, and Native Sense. If you're not familiar with them, Spartan Forge is an AI-based technology. We actually use their technology in their app, so they have typical maps that you see in your other platforms, but then they also have this AI deer movement prediction that has helped us harvest a lot of our deer from this past season. We use that day in and day out as we're running these ministry hunts. In addition to that, we also have Native Sense on board. They are a deer urine based company. I use them for a lot of my mock scrapes. They both have real deer urine and synthetic, depending on what your state allows. And then Buzzard Roost Saddles, their saying is "we ain't fancy." They're born out of the swamps of Louisiana, and they are some good guys that are making a really good quality saddle. So we're grateful for those three legacy sponsors. We thank you again for watching, and we'll get back to this episode. What I want to do when talking about this scrape is I want to point out some of the key reasons that I chose this specific scrape in this location to use as one of our primary mock scrapes. Across an acreage like this, we have about 70 acres here that we're using on our ministry property. Across about 70 acres, I'll usually use one, maybe two mock scrapes to target bucks. So the location is very important to me. Number one that I'm always looking for is, does it have cell phone service with my cell camera? The Tacticam reveals, if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. But they usually can get cell service just about anywhere, even when your phone can't. However, when the cell service is a little lower, it'll eat batteries a little quicker. And if you don't have the ability to get a solar panel in on that camera, because it's a shaded area, kind of like this one, then you want to make sure that cell service is good so it's not eating those batteries. Even though we use lithium cartridges, we just want to stay out of those areas as much as possible. Let the deer do what the deer do, and give them kind of the freedom to do what they want to do as they come and go with that scrape and not apply a lot of pressure. So I'm only going to come in here again 4 times a year, freshen up this scrape and use it. But the reason that we are choosing this one, this is kind of an interesting one here that I chose to use this year when I was doing my postseason scouting, which is the best time to scout for your scrapes. This was a really good one that I kept coming back to and saying, man, I like that one the most. Let me keep looking, see if I can find some better ones. But the reason I like this is because this is one finger of a 3-finger ridge. So you have a ridge going out to my right, you have a ridge going out to the left, and then you have the center. Down at the center of this one, you have a bunch of oak trees. So they're gonna be dropping white oak acorns right in October in bow season. And this scrape has been hit, touched, used as a licking branch almost all throughout the year. It gets hit, like you could still see that they scraped it back late season, they scraped it back early season, but the reason that I'm putting it here is because it's right at the peak of this center point, and as wind moves and drifts, it'll reach that ridge, it'll reach the ridge over here, and it'll reach down into the bottom. If you've listened to the Southern Outdoorsman podcast and talked to with the gentleman about deer's sense of smell, he talks about how for every mile per hour of wind, scent will drift X amount. For every incline, so for every degree of incline, the scent will drift X amount of feet as well. So this right here is a good location because you're going to get that wind drift and you're going to get that angle drift down into these bottoms where these deer like to cruise. So what a buck will do in season, in the rut, when they're utilizing scrapes, is they'll do a scrape line in a sense, and a lot of times that'll run through bottoms, it'll run up ridge points, but then they'll have these primary scrapes that they use year round and they'll just keep coming back to. So you might find 50 to 100 scrapes in an area and you're like, man, which one do I choose? Well, you want to choose the one that's going to hit the most throughout the entire season, because that's going to be their scrape that they're going to just keep coming back to. So for this one right here, they kept coming back to it. It's really funny is this is an old logging trail that I brought the skid steer up with a mulcher on it last year, cleared it out, and I actually nicked the tree that is hanging here. So it is actually dead. So this tree is almost completely dead. It has a little bit of life left in it somehow. I don't know how, but it does. When I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, this thing is like barely connected to the ground, but I guess it's somehow still getting some nutrients because it's got the leaves on it still. But what's neat about this is it's held on by by a vine. And so you can see how it bounces around and has kind of like that elasticity to it. Deer love that. So that's why you see a lot of people, they'll use vines and tie them up, and the deer can just sling their head all around on it, and they can kind of, ruffle their antlers around in it. But this gives the option for a deer to come in here when their velvet is still on, when it's a little softer, a little bit more sensitive, but once it gets a little bit more aggressive, they can come into this tree, shake it around, get that forehead gland scent kind of all over, in addition to the licking branch with their saliva. And so with this particular scrape, it kind of meets all of those factors for me when I'm looking. Again, if you want to learn more, you can always attend our master classes we have in late February. People ask me, hey, are you going to do another one? I just don't feel the need to do one at a later time of year, like leading into season. And I might change that one day. I'm not going to say never, but for me, the best time to scout is in February. And that's when you can get in. It's not going to disturb the deer for the season. If you come in September, October, and it's not a day that you're hunting and you just so happen to go by it, so you freshen it up, then it's just more time that you're going to be in the woods in that area, and a mature buck is going to be a lot more sensitive to that. So that's why I'm not going to do scrape master classes, because we might have bucks on properties that we're trying to get people on for ministry hunts. I would advise you to do the same. Hit it in the summer, hit it in the fall when you're already in the woods doing something and naturally going by it, and then hit it again, especially in the rut, and then change out those batteries on those cameras at the same time. But this right here, I'm going to go through now, is setting up the scrape in and of itself. So this is obviously a dormant scrape right now. As far as scrape back goes, it does not mean that deer are not still using it. I do not have a camera on it right now, so I do not know, but I can tell that they're using it in some way because all the leaves are stripped off, and I can see grooves in the bark where their teeth have went down it. And so they're still using this as a licking branch, even though the season is past, because there's no leaves on these, and there should be leaves growing on these because they're all around it. So they're still using it as a licking branch. They will spread that saliva, and that's how they communicate and identify one another. And so they will do that. And then so what I will do in a mock scrape is I will shred some more leaves off, and I'll prep it to where it looks like it's been hit a little bit more aggressive. And then I might break one off and let it hang down, just kind of lower so it draws some attention. And then I'm going to use my rake, and I'm going to rake that back and get that ground really nice and loose. And then I'm going to take those Native Scents products, all 4 of them that I have here today, and I'm going to soak the ground and saturate it with that scent. That way it starts to get in that soil, and year over year we can come back and freshen that up the 4 times of year, and then make sure that the deer are creating that habit to come in and hit this specific scrape, so we can hang a stand somewhere off of this trail or utilize this scrape to catch bucks cruising, and when the wind is blowing down into that bottom, catch them cruising that bottom and harvest them that way. So there's a lot of ways that you can use these mock scrapes, but let's go ahead and get this site prepped so you can see exactly how I do it. So again, I want to make it look like deer have been hitting this, so I'm going to shred all these leaves off of it here and just draw more attention to it. I know a lot of guys will wear gloves when they do that. I'm not too concerned with scent. Deer can smell like something crazy, like 600 times better than us. So with that being said, if I have gloves on, they're going to smell the gloves, they're going to smell me. You know, in Alabama, we sweat so much that worrying about scent is not too much on my radar. When it comes to hunting, I try to do as much to get rid of scent as much as I can. Try to use the elevator approach, as I call it. So the elevator approach is where if you had an elevator to come into your stand from the ground, and you come up into that stand, what's the least invasive place or least invasive way that you can come into that stand location to make sure that you're not spreading your scent or causing any ground disturbance. But what I'll do is I'll take this, not going to break it just a tad. I don't want to break it completely. And then the same with this, and just slightly bend it. And I want that to point towards the ground. And then I'm not going to touch that side because I really want the deer working around to this side. That way I can set up a stand anywhere in this kind of 180 to 200 degree window. There's tons of pines through here that I could set a stand up on and get a bow shot at. If I see a deer that's coming in and he's historically coming in from down in the bottom, I can wait till the wind's pushing off, you know, to this direction, and then when it's pushing off to this direction, I can hang a stand over here and harvest him coming right to this scrape. But what I'll do now, I'll grab that rake and scrape this back and show you how I work the ground. If you haven't watched my mineral site video, be sure to go check that out. That's another piece that you can add to getting these bucks to a specific location that you want to harvest them. So it kind of directs them in a way and funnels them to a specific point. So if you haven't seen that video, be sure to go check that out as well. One thing I do mention in there is these bigger tools are not necessary. So if you're going deep into the woods, you can carry hand tools and do the same exact thing. Or with scrapes, you can always grab sticks and use them as well. But I'm going to rake everything in here, and what I'm going to do is I want to clear out any kind of vegetation. So I'm pulling some roots I can feel that are going through the ground. I can feel those, but what I'm wanting to do is I'm going to clear all that out here in just a second, and I'm going to make a pretty big scrape. It's going to be bigger than normal, and that's just because I want to get as much scent possible into that, and then I want to get as much dirt into the air as possible as well. So as I'm prepping this right here, you can see it's starting to churn up some really good dirt, and deer are going to smell that in addition to the scent, and it's going to make them curious to come in here. So I'm just going to work that around, and again, making a pretty big area here. One thing that I failed to mention so far is you may not see a single deer hit this scrape until the rut. That is perfectly normal, and that is perfectly okay. Deer are inclined to hit things if you put a scrape in an area that's more convenient for you and it doesn't necessarily play into their natural habits, then you may not get a deer to hit that until the rut, when their testosterone's a little higher and they're wanting to come in and figure out, hey, what's that doe that I smell in heat, or what's that buck that I have competition with? And so I just wanted to point that out, that if you make a mock scrape, you put a camera on it, you may not see a buck or a deer period hit it for months, and that is okay. That is normal. So here in this part of Alabama, we're going to see late December, early January is going to be the time that most of the deer are going to be hitting this. And then some bucks, they won't even come in and hit the scrape until late January because they've bred all the does in their area, and now they're expanding their range. And so we've been able to harvest bucks that come from a long ways away off of these mock scrapes because they've smelled it. It has the highest concentration of scent from over time of us freshening it up every quarter, that they will come in and check that mock scrape out. Typically, if you get a buck on camera that hits that mock scrape that you've never seen before, you need to go hunt that deer immediately. He's going to stay in that area maybe a day, 2 days, maybe even 3 if there's a hot doe, but he'll come back and he'll check that because he'll smell, man, there's this hot doe in here. I want to come in. There's competition from a buck. And so just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out, because you may get frustrated that you've made a mock scrape and you don't see any activity. As you can see, I'm down here on my hands and knees, and this is exactly how I would do my mock scrapes. So I have my 4 bottles here of native scents. Again, that's going to be the War Party tarsal, the buck tarsal, that's a synthetic, the deception, that's going to be the doe urine, the seduction, that's going to be the doe estrous, and then the War Party, that's going to be the buck urine. The deception, War Party, and seduction, these 3 smaller bottles are going to be real urine, and then the War Party buck tarsal in the bigger bottle is going to be a synthetic. But I want to mix all of these into the dirt, and what I'll do is I'll spray it really heavy right here with all 4 of them to get all those different scents into this soil, and then I will rake it back a little bit more, and then I'll do the same thing and repeat that process over. When it comes to native scents, the real urine, you want to make sure that you keep those refrigerated year round. If you're like me and you're coming out today, put them in a lunchbox with a little cooler pack. Do not use your kid's lunchbox, your wife's lunchbox, anybody else's lunchbox but yours, or you will have some pretty upset family members, because the stuff is strong and it will smell and make everything taste in the lunchbox like that. So have a dedicated lunchbox with some cooler packs to keep these cool. But then I'm just going to simply start spraying this all around, just real heavy. And I'm also going to spray some of this dirt that I raked out here. Okay. And you always want to shake these up, make sure that they're mixed well. And then I'm spray that War Party. So spray the seduction first. Doesn't matter what order. Whew. I have nerve damage in my neck, and this nerve right here, it causes issues with this hand. So I got to switch hands real quick. And then do the deception. You can buy the deception and the War Party anytime, and then of course the synthetic anytime. Zach will have those. But as far as the seduction, those are the bottles that you're going to want to save up and buy extra for later in the season, or for outside of season. So he only makes the seduction, the War Party, and the deception he can make year round, but the seduction is, he's only going to be able to make that when the does are in estrus. So you want to make sure that you buy extra seduction when he is producing those, to make sure that you can save them for these times a year when it's not in production. You just want to keep those refrigerated. He doesn't personally like to sell them right now when they are out of season or old, so to speak. He likes to sell them as fresh as day. But I've told him that, like, if he will take and he will refrigerate some, there's people like me that are out there that are using them year round for these mock scrapes, and that he could still have a supply there for those type of people who are addicted to the whitetail woods like I am. Do it one more time. If these are in the right spot, that you have a bachelor group coming through, they will be a good use of inventory, or for inventory in your bucks. But if it's not an area where they're just not going to come through very much, then it may be just a scrape that you use to hunt deer in the rut. These scrapes will be really good for those deer that you have show up like 2 or 3 days on a camera every year. To put something like this in place that gets them to a very specific location for you would be key. And then make sure that you're hunting those 3 days in that area where this mock scrape is, because they're going to come check it out and you need to be there. That's something with historical camera data like using the reveals, I'll put bucks in albums and I'll kind of say, hey, they were here at this point in time. I need to make sure that I am there as well those 3 days. That's something that Michael Perry has talked about for many years, is patterning these bucks year to year. You may not get them this year, they may beat you this year, but that doesn't mean they'll win the next. All right, that's gonna be it for making the mock scrape as far as the sprays go. I'll rake one more layer over it and then we'll talk about some more details. What's up everyone? I just want to say thanks for watching this video. I actually forgot to record the ending clip because I had a coyote come up and start growling and barking at me and my son. It was pretty crazy. He did it for about 30 minutes and then finally was able to dispatch him and move on about our day, but it was a little wild for sure. We must have been in his territory. But he no longer has a territory now. But yeah, if you have any questions about scrapes, please let me know. Happy to help. And be sure to look out for our scrape master class come the end of deer season, sometime hopefully in February again.